What is up, everyone? It is a day that we have been waiting for quite a while now, and it is the day that Legends of Runeterra has shared their initial roadmap for the first portion of 2022. So we got a little look at what is coming in the life of Legends of Runeterra over the next few months. So we're going to dive right into the patch notes and discuss it all. I'll give you everything you need to know in a short, hopefully under 10-minute video. So up first, there is a video here featuring our good friend Andrew Yip, the game director for Legends of Runeterra, and he discusses, along with a few other developers, essentially for about 8 minutes about many of the different things coming to the game, right? From the competitive changes that are happening to the Path of Champions changes that are happening, etc. That's mostly highlighted down into this article here. So we're going to jump through and just kind of go through the main points. The first is this beautiful right here roadmap really of each different month. So obviously we are at the end of February currently. So in March, there will be a major balance update and the Infernal skins and cosmetics. Everyone gets really excited about new cosmetics, new skins, but I typically will buy a few of them occasionally, but mainly I am looking at the content portion of things, and a balance update is much needed. Hopefully this is one that will also buff some underplayed champions, not just look at nerfing the highest things, but also have a nice mix of both of those. In April, where they were supposed to have the new set come out in April, but it's a little bit delayed to May. Nothing major, but in April there will be champion adjustments, another major balance change, and of course the second anniversary of Legends of Runeterra, which is super exciting, which might have multiple other things as well, but we'll be gifting out a free Arcane Jinx and Vi skin to everyone, which is super cool. The champion adjustments is very interesting. So later in this article, they go on about talking about those champion adjustments are essentially looking at some of the old roster of the game, right? Some of the originals. Some that come to mind, obviously, are Katarina, right? She's definitely one that hasn't seen play, but Garen is pretty generic. He could use some a little update, and etc. Now, it might be like a rework. That'd be a little bit hopeful, but it could just be some buffs or some slight adjustments to their card or their package in general, other cards for that. May is a big month. Clearly, we see Jhin on the cover of this picture here in May, but it comes with new PvP and PvE expansion, which is super exciting. And what you'll see is that will be the standard for when a new expansion comes out. They'll be introducing both PvE and PvP expansions as they go, which is super fun. A new feature, which is called the Runeterra Champion, which we'll talk about in a second. The Path of Champions 2.0, which is huge. Pulse Fire event, Pass and Cosmetics, and of course the seasonal tournament. So I believe the seasonal tournament would have been published or scheduled for April, and I think in client it is, I believe, just since this next set is pushed back a little bit into May. That's most likely what's happening here is that the seasonal tournament is just going to be pushed back into May as well. No big deal there. In June, we have additional major balance updates. So anytime a month doesn't have a release, they typically will throw that in there, which is great. And then July, we have the new PvP and PvE expansion. As I just said, it'll be both PvE and PvE whenever they have new cards come out. An expansion event pass, and of course another seasonal tournament. So it's just an early glimpse into what July looks like. Mainly, this kind of shows off to me what's up and at least coming until June. So we know that a new expansion is coming out in May. It's featuring a new feature called Runeterra Champions. It is an update to Path of Champions in general, and a couple more things that we'll dive into. I think that's the main focus. Once you get to July, August, you're kind of pushing too far beyond their scope. So right now we're staying into that bubble here. So as we go through and we can read some of this throughout here, it says, all these new things are coming and they're really excited about it. And the next expansion is going to arrive in May. So it got pushed back just a tiny bit. So then they talk about the Path of Champions 2.0, and they give us a first glimpse at this screen. So if you have played Path of Champions, which you most likely have, it's the most popular game mode in Legends of Runeterra. If you played it, you can notice that this looks significantly different. Here they're clicking on one of their heroes, Vi, and they have a role for them, and now it shows control. So now Vi's deck is a little bit more control, gives you a difficulty meter of how hard this deck will be to pilot, which is pretty cool. It'll give you a little bit of a background lore of the character, which is super awesome. I love the comic strips they had throughout the game mode. They were super fun to play with, so it looks like they'll be doubling down a little bit more of that, which is great. And then you'll see multiple other things like star powers. That's something new. Champion level, which might have the same upgrades that Path Champions currently had. A starting deck, which they mentioned in the video that you might be able to adjust now, which is super exciting instead of having the same starting deck every run. And of course, relic items, which we've seen before as they go into your champions. That's all super exciting. It just seems like it is the same mode to the core, but they're expanding on that mode in general. And down here, it's super interesting to read that actually, since its release, players have consistently been spending more time in Path of Champions than all the other game modes combined. That is expeditions, gauntlet, tournament, obviously ranked, normals, etc. All that combined, most played is Path of Champions. And also they reference in the video that since Path of Champions came out, the player base for Legends of Runeterra has doubled. That's absolutely insane. Huge kudos to the team working on the Path of Champions. It's a really, really interesting mode, really fun, good storytelling, and I think that's one of the things that they can do now is tell better stories. And they mentioned that. They want to tell new stories, large progression revamp, new regions, relics, more, etc. Right now, there's only 3 regions you can fight against, but opening that up is super exciting, and you can explore all new regions. But as well as that, you can tell interesting stories with these characters. They're going to have each character will have a fleshed out story, which will be really fun. Because realistically, I had a blast doing the main story characters for Path of Champions, but once we got past that point, I wasn't all about going through every character who didn't have a story attached to it. If they do, sign me up. Show me some more of those comics. That's super awesome. Now what they're switching here is from expansions over set. Obviously, this is their roadmap from the beginning, from 2020 to 2022, just 2 short years of this game, and how they released these additional sets, and they were released with new regions in total. So Targon, Shurima, Bandle City. Well, clearly we are done with the regions. We have all 10 in the game now. So what will they come out with next? And they're going to just be called expansions in Legends of Runeterra. They're not going to be grouping sets fully together. There'll be standalone releases that will expand content for both PvP and PvE. I think that's really cool. It can do some very interesting things. So when they introduce a new character like Jhin, who we'll talk about in a second, they can put Jhin in Path of Champions, or if they have another PvE mode at some point, that's great too. But at the same time, it's releasing him as a card that's playable, that you can collect, that you can use on ladder and in tournaments, etc. Really love that. I think they've done that a little bit with but trying to add a few of the new champions that come out to Path of Champions, but they don't add them with like their own story mode or anything. If there's more of a focus on that, it'd be so awesome to have Jhin come out into the game, be able to collect him, play him on ladder and everything, but also have him come out with his own unique stories. You can actually learn the card. For people who don't know these champions, you can learn what that character is lore-wise and get to explore that at the same time as you can make it and play him in PvP. I think it's genius and really fits the League IP very well. So very excited about that. It also just gives them a lot more freedom. They're not locked into, okay, Bandle City and then 2 more expansions, and you have to balance the power levels of regions by breaking things up. They can release what they want to the game and in a lot more free way. Runeterra Champions is the next thing they announced. They have this beautiful picture of Jhin here, but it's a very, very exciting thing. Essentially, it's champions that don't really fit into one single region. So Jhin will not fit into just one region. He will be his own deck building tab. And in the video, they show that. When you click on a regions, you see the 10 different regions, and then you see a picture of Jhin. And he has his own deck building requirements. And they're saying this is going to be for champions that have conflicting allegiances across several regions, right? We know we're not getting every region in the game. There's a lot of champions from the Void, from Ixtali that we've seen placed in other regions, but this could be a good spot for some of those as well. And this champion's deck building restriction is actually really cool. He can include cards with skills, so that's like the little dot on the play or the attack, anything like that, from all other regions. So in the video, again, I'm just taking some guesses here, but in the video you have a deck building slot where you can pick Freljord and then Jhin. And now Jhin is your second region technically, but he allows you to pick skills from any other region at all. So you can have a really unique deck building experience using characters like this. Super excited to see where they go. And I think Jin's a great first step into that. I think it's very neat, and I like this skill one. You could easily see something like Reno Jackson from Hearthstone, which was you had to run all different cards, right? That would just be like how Singleton is in the game now, or how it was at least when Singleton was in the game, running decks that have only one max of each copy of card. That's a super interesting way to make a Runeterra champion, and very cool. And there's some really great champions that I'm excited that could fit the slot. Like Ryze is the first one that comes to my mind as one of the main characters of League of Legends. That seems super fun. Here in April, they discussed that they haven't forgotten about the old roster and that they will be looking at and revamping some of the old champions to get them up to a more competitive level. That's super exciting. Cosmetics, again, we are getting a free Jinx and Vi from Arcane, which is really cool. And they will be, what I really like about this is that the new champions that have been coming out at the epic level for cosmetics have had new skins for their champion spells. As you see right here, Make It Rain for Misfortune. They're going to actually be going back and taking all of the old champions that had epic skins come out and giving them the same update, so they get a little bit more value out of the skins. I think that's a really good response to some good feedback about how the skin prices were just a little bit hairy at times, and they wanted to kind of give them a little bit more of a bonus there as well. Then they finally end with discussing the hope to introduce new different types of battle events, like new different PvE experiences. So they have this final boss Vagar that's in the game right now at the end of this current arcade event pass. They want to do more things like that, which again, super interesting. I would love to team up with a friend and kind of do like a World of Warcraft type raid against a boss, have multiple people playing against the same enemy. I think that'd be really fun, and I think the limit there is to the ceiling. I think they can do whatever they want there. So that's pretty much the video, guys. That's the roadmap. If you haven't watched their dev talk at the beginning of this, I highly suggest you check it out. Very good information there. The one sour note of this entire thing is that the seasonal tournaments will no longer be getting broadcasted, and a lot of PvP competitive players are a bit upset at that. Totally warranted to be sad about that. I do think they haven't brought in the greatest viewership, and they're shifting to do a little bit more focus on the PvE side of things, which I think will overall help the growth of the game in the long run. But yes, the seasonal broadcast will not be anymore. That does not mean the seasonal tournaments won't happen. The seasonal tournaments will certainly still happen, and they are shifting their energy to make Worlds 2022, which they announced in this video, even better than Worlds 2021 was, which is extremely exciting, and we'll put all the focus onto that as well. I am sure the community will step up and have great streams and great ways to view each seasonal as we approach those. So stay tuned to different community channels for that. That'll do it for the video. Until next time.